The MP5 got a very secret buff, whereas the VAL has had a very public nerf. But the question is, are any of these relevant, and should you be using them in your loadouts? Well, hello everybody, I am Shadows Rain, and in this video, we are going to be discussing exactly that. So if you do enjoy the video, make sure you hit that like button below, and consider subscribing if you are new here. We do these kind of videos all the time. But I just want to let you know, guys, that all the footage that you're about to see today has been recorded in a live stream from yesterday. So if you don't want to miss a beat, make sure you hit that bell button as well while you're clicking subscribe. But yes, let's get right into it. Should we be using these weapons? Let's have a look. So, yeah, initially these weapons are designed to have low ammo, like in a mag, and reward you for having pure lethality up close. Now, with that public nerf to the VAL, we have a little problem where it doesn't really compete anymore for that title. But does the MP5? Let's have a little look. Let's compare them. So, in terms of damage, normal damage to the chest, you are going to be doing 37 damage to the chest on an MP5 10mm. You're going to be doing 27 on an VAL. I remember when that used to be a lot higher. It's a shame. But yeah, those are the raw damage numbers. Headshot on a MP5 49, VAL 42. Now, looking into the rate of fire, because time to kill is kind of directly dictated by this, rate of fire on the MP5 is 798 rounds per minute, whereas on the VAL it's 885, which is quite a nice number. Both are really high though, to be fair, so don't think that that's going to be a significant advantage or disadvantage for either weapon. Next, we're going to talk about the range, where there is a significant advantage for one of the weapons. On the MP5, it's going to be coming in at 13 meters. Now, I do want to note this is on the optimal build. So for this particular weapon, I'm going to be building it for hip fire and movement speed, because you don't really want to be using it at long range, because you're going to be pairing it with an assault rifle anyway. So yeah, so 30 meters, it's not great. However, it doesn't have a steep damage drop off like the OTS does. We'll get around to why the OTS isn't in this video later on. For the range on the VAL, it's going to be coming in at a whopping 41 meters, which is obviously a significant advantage over the 10mm MP5. However, there are drawbacks to this, one of them being the bullet velocity, which we'll get into. So the bullet velocity is 671 on the MP5 and 429 meters per second on the VAL. Now, obviously, we have a huge advantage on the MP5 for bullet velocity, but a huge advantage for range on the VAL. Now, for me, personally, I believe that you're better off using the MP5 anyway, because you're not really going to be hitting anything past 30 meters on an VAL anyway, when you consider how much recoil there is and how slow the bullets are going to be flying out. So that's the maximum you can get on an VAL for that optimal build, which is built for range, aim down sight, speed, and recoil. The MP5, like I say, it's got a decent bullet velocity, but that's actually not built for bullet velocity. That's just how the gun is on the optimal build, which I say isn't really built for bullet velocity. So to still have a higher bullet velocity than an VAL, which has been built specifically for that, yeah, that is a big deal, especially at range. The next thing that I do want to talk about with these two weapons is going to be the reload speed. The reload speed, base reload speed, is going to be 2.79 seconds for the MP5. And it's going to be 2.18 seconds on the VAL. Now, that is a huge reload time on the MP5. So the only way you can remedy this is with sleight of hand. And actually, I do have sleight of hand in my build for this weapon. I know you're not seeing that on this particular gameplay. It's a more recent addition, but it does 1.181 seconds when you're using it with sleight of hand, which is a 0.98 seconds decrease in your reload speed, which is huge. It's obviously, it's nearly over a third. Well, it is over a third. Absolutely worth having for that, especially when you're up close and in people's faces. You need to get that mag done quickly. For the VAL, it's going to be 1.89 seconds, so not as much of an improvement. And as actually, when you run sleight of hand, it is longer to reload than the MP5. So yeah, if you're not running any sleight of hand attachments, VAL is the boy. If you are, then the MP5 is the boy. So yeah, now obviously you're going to be using these guns up close. It's kind of their niche. So let's talk about the hip fire. The hip fire, when you build the optimal build for the MP5, it's going to be ultra tight. This is one of the tighter hip fires in the game when you run it with a 5mm laser and a couple of other attachments. Also, on the VAL, it's fucking huge for an SMG. Like, this is like a base AR field of hip fire, which if you are using an AR and comparing it to other ARs is actually alright, but when you compare it to the rest of the submachine guns, which, to be fair, this gun is kind of in competition with, it's a huge hitbox. So you basically want to be aiming down sights with this gun to get the most damage off, whereas on the MP5, you don't need to. And because you're not aiming down sights, you have full mobility. You can be jumping, ducking, doing slides, backflips, whatever you want to do with the MP5 in a gunfight, you can do with that. And this kind of leads into our next area. We're going to be talking about the move speeds. Now, the move speeds on these particular weapons, on the MP5, is going to be coming in at 5.08 meters per second, which is quite fast. It's not the fastest compared to the SMGs, but it is fast. And then the move speed on the VAL is going to be 4.52 meters per second. That might sound like just 0.5 meters per second difference, but when you're actually in game, that is huge. Like, if you're, like, say, for example, in a 100 your objective's 100 meters away, and you run alongside someone who's got the MP5 and you've got the VAL, they're going to be at that gunfight a good few seconds, like, quicker than you, which could be the difference between your team winning or losing that gunfight. So yeah, that is a big deal. Now, especially when we talk about the sprint speed as well. Sprint speed is 6.56 meters per second on the MP5, and it's going to be 6.04 on the VAL. Really, the MP5, you want to get in and out of battles, is the one that you want to be carrying. You're not building VAL for speed, because you're not going to be able to hit a thing if you do that. So yeah, this is kind of how it goes with those particular stats. Now, the most important stat that we do want to talk about in this video is going to be the time to kill. The time to kill on the MP5 is going to come in at 451 milliseconds within that 30-meter kill range. This is huge. This is basically faster than some shotguns. This is faster than any other SMG in the game currently. And of course, it's just ridiculous damage. The next on the VAL, the time to kill is coming in at 661 milliseconds, which is actually quite high. Like I said, we were going to be replacing this number, but the MP5 as damage up close is actually going to kill people quicker than the pre-nerf VAL, which I believe was in the 550 region. So it is absolutely worth using the MP5 in any situation other than the range. So let's pretty much talk down a lot of other factors here. So as mentioned, I said that the OTS wasn't getting brought up on this video. That's because the OTS is slower to kill in all ranges than both of these weaponries. So it's not reflected in this episode of HDIF. How does it feel? Because it's got nothing it can compete with. The MP5's hipfire and mobility makes it superior for close, isolated engagements. So you're going to be dropping people super close, super quickly. And, that's what you need in your SMG. If you're looking at dropping people at 41 meters, then you should be using your AR to be doing that kind of damage anyway, because you're going to be having an easier time hitting them with the recoil, with the bullet velocity, and you're going to have a bit more range on top of that, usually 60, 70 meters in some cases, especially if you're using the SE87 and the Odin at the moment, which are really, really strong. So yeah, both weapons, if you can isolate individuals in a team, have 1v4 potential. You can drop them before they even take plates off you in some cases, which is absolutely incredible. You can do that with both weapons, like I say, although you're going to have a little bit more success, well, a lot more success with the MP5 in that region. One thing I would say, though, is if you are getting close and in people's faces regularly, sleight of hand is a must on both weapons. If you're not using sleight of hand, I can promise you, in the middle of a gunfight, you are going to get dropped by a teammate of whoever you're shooting. So just make sure you're ready for that. And obviously, when you consider that extra time when it comes to plating up as well and then reloading, milliseconds make differences. Milliseconds are the difference between winning a gunfight and going back in the queue for another game. So just bear that in mind. Now, the VAL after 13 meters has a huge advantage. However, recoil will lead to missed shots along with extremely slow bullet velocity. Picked up on that earlier in the video. And also, if you pick your target if you know what fight you're going to get into, you're not caught off guard, you shouldn't need the range of the AS VAL if you're going to be able to close that you're going to be able to close that distance to your target extremely quickly with the MP5 mobility. Like you're not going to be in a position where you need that 41 meters in your SMG type weapon. You're not going to be in a position where you're going to need to use that, because you're going to be closing the engagements, if you know they're coming, with your MP5. You're going to be in that fight much quicker than what an ASVAL would be with an MP5. You're going to be miles ahead. If you've got to run 100, 200, 300 meters to get to a gunfight, you can literally get in there and have 2 people knocked, potentially even 3, by the time the kid with the AS VAL is even in his 41 meter kill range. So this is a huge, huge point for me. And this is the reason why I am currently using the MP5. So in this video, we have a definitive winner. Woohoo! Makes a bloody change instead of if you're doing this, do that. If you're doing this, do this. No, definitive winner here. Up close, 10mm MP5 is the most powerful thing you can be using at this current moment in time in terms of pure raw time to kill numbers. Now, we do have other videos that we're going to be making on this series. So the Odin's going to be brought in. We're going to be doing the SE87. We're also going to be comparing the MP7 to the Mac 10 and the P90 of all things. Millimano is going to be covered as well. So we do have a few more videos coming over the next couple of weeks in this series, along with the standard gameplays, streams, and maybe even a podcast or two. So guys, if you did enjoy this video, make sure you hit that like button below. Consider subscribing if you're new here, because every little helps makes a massive, massive difference here for a channel of our size. So yeah, make sure you hit all them buttons and get sharing as well. But guys, till then, I've been Shadows Rain. You guys have been awesome, and we'll see you in the next Shadows Rain A1A video. Peace.